say you've got a client and they're not Rogue, they're like a small up and coming player in the kettlebell space. Like maybe they've got some new technology, makes it more ergonomic or something. I don't know. The better kettlebells, right? And
sure.
They're in that short-term mindset. They're like, all right, we've got a limited runway. We can't really like play this. Like we can't make our spokesperson into like the next Dave Asprey or like big thought leader.
Yeah.
So you identify a bunch of maybe lists of the 19 best kettlebells and like get on those lists, or is it like a little bit higher up? Because I'm struggling to think what you could pitch that wouldn't just sound like, hey, can you please put me on this list?
For sure. Yeah. So going off this example, like you're pretty early stage, you have a product, but you need sales pretty quickly. You don't have, 6 to 12 months to invest whatever, $40,000+ into a lot of PR and then a lot of push there. I'd still recommend going to those companies in those lists and trying to get on those and really just offering something like a free product in exchange. And we've seen this, work well through all different types of industries, upwards of like things like lifestyle, travel, anything where you have a physical product is actually kind of an advantage in that sense because people are very curious about a lot of these physical products. Especially if this company, for example, has products made and it's not like, pre-market or anything like that. There's a lot of opportunity to reach out there and just say like, hey, I'd love to, almost like an influencer style outreach there in the sense like, hey, I'd love to send you a free product here. I noticed you post a piece on, the best kettlebells. We think we're really competitive in this space and we'd love for you to try it out, see what you think and go from there. And we see a lot of success with that overall. And we do see that successful in software too. It's just a little more competitive.
You hear about link building tactics all the time. Like we've had a long history of like different, skyscraper technique, broken link building, all of these different things. What doesn't work? What is just like, this isn't worth my time in terms of link building tactics?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So it's pretty funny when I see a lot of those lists that are like 101 link building tactics for success in this year. It's like, you don't need anywhere near that amount of tactics to find success with link building. You really just need maybe 2 or 3 maximum, and you need to do those 10 times better than anyone else to see a lot of success there. And so we avoid anything like broken link building, anything like that, where there's just so much data that you have to sift through to find even a few good potential targets there. Most of the time when you email them, they're just going to say, oh, thanks for pointing it out. They're going to replace it with an internal link or something like that. A lot of the time we see tactics like reaching out to a company that's covered a similar piece and suggesting yours. Doesn't really work because you're kind of competing, even if you're not direct competitors in terms of a product standpoint, you might be competing in terms of a SERP standpoint. So that's something to be aware of when you're doing that. And so what we see to be really the most effective is narrowing down on a few of those tactics and just going all in on those. And for us, those tend to be things like contribution, so submitting fresh content that sites actually want to publish.
This is like guest posts or?
So it's kind of like guest posts. We don't call it that in a traditional sense because when you think of guest posting, it's usually like sort of spammy, like mediocre quality content done at scale. You write the piece and then you try to find an outlet that'll hopefully take it. You hopefully get that published. You maybe search like write for us and then your industry and you just peel back the top 100 sites on there. We try to avoid all that and we just go direct to source. So we find, hey, here's like 10 companies that have cool blogs. They have, overlapping audiences. And we say, hey, like, let's do some research on our end and say, okay, this is your top 3 competitors. They're covering these 3 or 4 or 5 different types of pieces and you're not. And here's why you should be covering that. So doing essentially like a mini content gap analysis in that sense and really looking at where they're potentially missing out on traffic, on valuable customers coming into their door and really saving them time and money in that sense. Because we all know like how expensive it is to create actual really good content that's going to rank for those key phrases. And so if you're putting in that extra time and that effort, you're going to get really good publicity. You're going to get a lot of those links there that normally would be unreachable, or normally you'd have to have some sort of crazy connections there from the past to get in those doors. So we see that as being a really effective tactic that we've 10x our not double down, but 10x down on. And then another one there would be really that kind of study and original research focus. We've done that for our own companies, for clients as well. We often see, a single study generating hundreds and hundreds of unique root domains, all within, a DR 60 plus via Ahrefs. So DR is not like foolproof, but it's a good tripwire for anyone listening. So it gives you kind of a good base level assessment of how strong a site is. But we've seen, original research be really key if done correctly. But again, it is a little more of a long-term play, a little more expensive to put into action. And it's a little slower to take effect than maybe just going for outreach, but we do see it netting far more high quality links, at least in the long term.